This Sunday is Halloween, the time of year where you buy 10-pound bags of candy in anticipation of handing out to kiddos dressed up as superheroes and princesses, hoping that the bowl gets emptied before the night is over. How do you approach Halloween? Do you feel like you need to deprive yourself of the candy festivities in order to stay on track? Or do you have more of a mindset of, screw it, Halloween and the week after are just going to be a total wash? What's your Halloween strategy? In this video, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite tricks and treats for how to not let candy consumption consume you this Halloween. Hey friends, I'm Christina, and on this channel, we talk about lean eating skills and the psychology of fat loss without restrictive diets or calorie counting while keeping the fun in life because dieting sucks. Food is meant to be eaten and enjoyed, and some of the most enjoyable food also happens to not be the most nutritious. Take candy for instance. I love candy, most especially anything involving chocolate, caramel, or peanut butter. Thankfully, being lean and healthy doesn't mean I never get to eat those things I enjoy again. It just means figuring out how much and which kinds I can eat while still maintaining my goals. So how do I figure that out? This time of year is fun. Spooky decorations, cute costumes, fall flavors and movies, and of course, Halloween candy can be fun. That is, until I find myself with a pile of candy trash and a stomachache. But it doesn't have to be that way. A client recently asked me, how do you recommend handling Halloween? I end up eating more of my kids' candy than they do, and I'm worried I'm gonna screw everything up. So let's jump right into it. Here are my 5 favorite tricks and treats for how to deal with Halloween. Tip number 1, when it comes to eating candy, only eat the ones that are worth it. What do I mean here? Only when it's awesome, also known as OWIA, pronounced oh yeah. Think back to the last few days. Have you eaten some kind of candy that seems to be on every countertop surface you see? Were any of those candies not amazingly enjoyable? If so, those are the ones you may pass on next time. I'll give an example. A few years ago, we set out a bowl of candy on the porch with a little sign that said, please take one or a few. When we got home that night, all of the candy was gone except Starburst. We had half the bowl of candy left of Starbursts. Now, I'm not dissing Starburst because I happen to like any candy that I have to work a little bit to chew. But it's certainly not my favorite either. I still wonder what my neighborhood has against them. Maybe they were already practicing this tip. They thought, Starbursts are good, but not worth it. So often, people, myself included, will just eat candy because it's there. That's what I did the year of the Left Behind Starbursts. I would eat a few of them every day until they were gone just because they were there. That brings me to my next tip, which is eat your candy mindfully. This is a tip I recommend when it comes to all eating because a lot of times we are distracted while eating and it leads to a whole host of other problems. When you are mindful, you can tell whether something is good or not. So much of the eating we do is for the experience. Take things into account like, am I sitting with my kids and enjoying this experience of sharing candy together with them? Don't just shovel some candy in your mouth as you're managing kids or rushing around or cleaning up. If this candy is not something you have often, take a seat and really savor it. Eating while sitting down and undistracted is a really important skill I practice with my one-on-one client. It can also help you realize that sometimes the food you're eating really doesn't even taste that good. And that can especially be true with certain candies. Tip number 3. Set up the ideal experience. One way to do this is by putting physical barriers between you and the candy. If you are someone who buys candy well in advance in preparation for Halloween because you want the good stuff, try putting it up in a cabinet where it is out of sight and maybe not so easy to get to. I happen to be on the shorter side, so putting things up on the fridge is a good way to keep them out of my reach. Having candy on the counter with easy access, on the other hand, can be a way that can lead to mindlessly eating it. One other thing you can do is try waiting to buy it until the day of, and maybe it'll even be discounted. So that brings me to tip number 4. Decide who you want to be this Halloween. No, I don't mean your costume, although if you haven't decided yet, I guess you still have a little bit of time. One year, my mom dressed me up as a bag of jelly beans, which was me wearing a large clear garbage bag filled with balloons. Very cost-effective, creative, and easy to put together last minute if you need an idea. Okay, but back to my point. Decide who you want to be. If you think back to years past and maybe you overindulged, first of all, I've been there. So many of us have. The question is, do you want to behave differently this year? How can you plan for being the type of person you want to be this year? Maybe you'd like to enjoy some of the candy that you only eat this time of year. Need I say candy corn? How can you set yourself up for success and align your behavior with your values? This can look like planning your meals afterwards. Sometimes eating a piece of fruit can reset or cleanse the palate. Tip number 5, leave the self-criticism out of it. Are you a person who tends to think in terms of all or nothing? Perfectionism really tries to help us, but often leaves us feeling like a failure when we don't achieve what we're looking for. Maybe in years past you have deprived yourself of Halloween candy, taking a more nothing mindset, only leading to overindulging later on. At least for me, when I take the all or nothing approach, it usually means all. So instead, what if you tried some? This year, I'm only going to have a little bit of candy, but as with tip number 1, only the ones that are worth it. Certain low nutrition foods make us want to judge our foods or ourselves, but we can enjoy them in a way without shame and guilt. There are no rewards for beating yourself up. Feeling terrible doesn't help you reach your goals or eat better. In fact, plans to restrict tomorrow or guilt and shame actually leads to eating more of those low nutrition foods. All right, ghouls and boos, I hope you learned something fun and found those tricks and treats helpful. Let me know if you get a chance to practice them. And as always, if you have any nutrition questions, please leave a comment, and I hope you have a very happy and safe Halloween.